Last time we were here, it was the spring special. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll put it in the description below and you can check it out. But today is the big day. We've just moved into autumn, so of course the heat's subsided. It's a lot easier to work the land. Summer is just hell here. We just bunker down. It's even worse the further north you go, but for me, being a Brit, being an immigrant, yeah, I do struggle in the summer. Got my brush cutter, and I just thought, you know, try and make a different video. I thought probably 2 or 3 hours of me brush cutting would just be very therapeutic for you. So make yourself a cup of tea. I'm only joking. I'll put it on fast forward, so it'll be at least 20 minutes worth. Anyway, oh yes, a couple of things you need to think about. So you can see now I'm in the shade. It's coming up to 11:30. Now, I did plant some ghost gums 20 years ago, and of course they are casting shade here. It will be a different story in the summer when the sun's more here, but I need to make sure that the taller growing Leptospermum are further down the hill. So it's just things like that that you've always got to be thinking. Otherwise they're going to shade each other out, because I don't know what gradient this hill is, but it's significant. The moisture content in the soil is absolutely brilliant at the moment. So as you know, at the beginning of the year we'd actually had 18 months worth of rain, and this is clay. It is west facing, that's the other thing as well. So that's west over there. Obviously south is there. It's going to hold a lot more moisture for a longer time, purely because there's a massive ridge there as well. So we're not getting much morning sun, and we'll probably get maybe 3 hours of summer sun. It will be more in the summer, of course. But yes, the ridge then also stops, well, it gets, the sunset here is between 3 and 4, depending if it's winter or summer, because it just goes behind the ridge. These big clumps of devil's figs everywhere, I will take them out, but at the moment, Nagura burr, this stuff here, is my main point of attack, and I am really actually going to attack it today. I'm going to be probably covered. I'm liking the thought that this brush cutter will actually do all the work for me, but I have a feeling I will look like some form of yeti covered in burrs by the time I've finished. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move you guys over to the other side of the valley. It's like a little gully valley thing, so that you can actually see the extent of land and hill that I'm actually going to make into a mixed orchard, and hopefully you will enjoy. I think that's everything that I have covered. It's just those little things, steepness. When I plant, I will be making stakes with I'll get an old sheet and I'll rip that up, because as you can see, once you start planting into acreage and you've got weeds like I have, you want to tag where you've planted stuff. So I just get a stake and a sheet, and eventually both of them tend to rot once the plant, after a couple of years and the plant's big enough. So it's all good, it just goes back into the soil. I am not clearing the whole face of this hill. There's going to be areas where there's already trees. That tree there is going to fall over, so I need to be careful about where I plant. But these little areas are brilliant for little mini ecosystems, where you've got skinks and geckos and birds and bugs and all types of insects and spiders and everything. And there'll be them positioned. So the areas that I'm going to clear are sort of smaller areas, and it's a lot less psychological for me. Because if I was to clear or think about clearing the entire side of the hill, which I did do when I first arrived, it is exhausting. It's a couple of days work. So I'm going to enjoy this. Full moon is tomorrow, so I've got to crack on with this. Yeah, the other thing is I should have done this 2 weeks ago, because it would have been from full moon to new moon, and that's when you chop things down. Basically, you prune and you chop things down because the water retracts. Between the new moon and the full moon, which is where we're at now, being full moon tomorrow, the waterways are open, so the hydrology is in full activity, and that's when you plant. So anyway, things happened and I couldn't get onto the property for one thing or another, whether I just didn't have time, I didn't feel like it, and so it's just the way it is, you know, that's life. So I'm going to start up my brush cutter and then I'm going to be on my merry way. There's a movie in Australia called The Castle, and it's quintessentially Australian. And it's kind of one of those movies or films that you have to watch before you live here so that you understand. And one of the things he says is, "Ah, the serenity. Sound of a 4-stroke going flat out." In 2016 was when I first looked into a Leptospermum plantation. So that's like 7 years ago, and I was going to buy some land and do it all the industrial way. Then I tripped over the regenerative farmers, and I realised that plantation, I needed to think about it a little bit more, but I was definitely interested in bees, more so for pollinating rather than the honey. But of course with the Leptospermum then you've got the honey as well, the Manuka honey. This moment is really magical for me because I'm actually walking the talk. I'm doing what I said I wanted to do 7 years ago. And it's taken, believe it or not, it's taken 7 years for me to get my head around how I was going to do it. And when you look back on that first video of the hill paddock, so if you haven't watched it, it will be in the description below. I had no idea what I was doing, I had an idea what I was doing, but I didn't know how I was going to execute it. And I'm doing it. So even if you're sitting on an idea for 10 years, don't worry about it. It will fall into place. That it's because you're not quite ready for it. When the moment that you think of something amazing, you're not quite ready to do it properly. And can you imagine if I'd gone ahead and got all these Leptospermum plants and I hadn't even thought about experimenting, and I bought all the YTI and they'd all died on me? You know, that's a lot of time, effort and money down the drain. So there may be half of these that don't make it. I doubt it. I would say maybe about 5% don't make it. And I am taking a risk with the polygallifolium and the YTI cross, because I haven't experimented with them. But I know that the polygallifolium, it's a very difficult word to say, that one, does like it here. So I'm hoping that the crossbreed likes it too. What I'm probably going to do is plant them at the bottom, at the foot of the hill, because I know that the YTI like it fairly moist. Obviously here, pretty well the whole bank, the mountain, whatever you want to call it, the side of the hill, has really good moisture content, and it retains it. And like I said, the clay is amazing. But you're going to go and you'll have a look at that soon. Going to load this into the back of the ute, which is a little bit heavy. Throw that in the back too. Okay. Okay, so what I want to do all right, so I've got a bit of worm juice here, and I'm just going to, rather than doing it for every single hole, because remember I'm planting 40 today, I'm just going to put it in these buckets. Actually, because it's a bit, there we go. So, there you go, that's a bit of a Tamsin technique. Learn something new every day. Plenty of moisture. Nice red tambourine clay. We have all sorts here, like as in all different soils, just because of all the hills and geographically it's all been pushed up. Now then, nice moisture. Like if you were going to do some earthworks, this is absolute optimal compaction moisture if you're working in the engineering side of things. Oh, it just smells earthy. How else is earth going to smell? And although I'm using a Paddock, I absolutely love my Paddock, and I will show you why. Well, obviously on a hill it is pretty well the only tool to use. You don't want to be using a shovel. You'd fall over. So you stand downhill and you make a hole. So I'm making it fairly big for the tube stock that I've got, purely because I'm going to put in the compost. So I may as well pray that the cameras are doing their job and come and get one of these. Right, so this is a bit heavy. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some handfuls of this in the hole to mix, well, so the roots and the microbes and the worms can do some mixing. All right, and this is probably going to be a big blooper, and I'm not actually sure they come in. I'm going to have to tip it up. I know this is not the best way, but I need to see the names. Polycross YDI, okay. And I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yes, I got 10 of those. Oh, wow. There you go. See those roots? See if I can come on this camera. See those roots? They are perfectly ready to rock and roll. So I did put some worm juice on them in the watering can before I came down here. So remember, the compost has had a bit of worm juice on it as well. I'm not going to touch those roots. They can just spread and be happy mixing with Wongawallen beautiful soil. My first Leptospermum, 7 years later. And the other good thing with digging with a Paddock is, because of the way it leverages, you actually have this nice little water bank. And I normally just break up the clay a little bit. And so, of course, it's got a beautiful catchment area all the way up the side of the hill, and it works really well. Planting on hills is just amazing. I don't know how anybody plants on the flat, but that's only because I don't have any flat land to plant on. Oh, welcome, beauty. Full moon tonight, so exciting. magical moment caught on camera for you guys to share with me. If I didn't have this video channel, I wouldn't be doing this. I would be planting, but obviously I wouldn't be sharing it with anybody. Ow! Stab me.